I was working on a project on an American sexual wellness brand.
You are with a product that is not easy to sell online.
We were actually the first brand in India to launch an all-natural lube. So I heard things like, अच्छा मैम बट जब तक आप रूम खोलोगे और स्ट्रॉबेरी नहीं हो जाएगा, पूरी स्मेल स्ट्रॉबेरी की नहीं होएगी, तब तक मज़ा कहाँ आएगा? The journey also included a lot of challenges because I think we touched upon this a little bit.
Yeah.
Being the female co-founder.
It's called DTF. I'm so sorry. Did it actually come from DTF?
Yes, down to yeah.
Okay.
I get this message from this dude saying DTF, and I was like, I didn't know what that meant at that point. So I googled it, and I was like, okay, we have to launch a lube that's called DTF because hello, it only makes sense, right? I've heard manufacturers be like, but you know, like basically trying to explain things to me or mansplain things to me and going like, but आप अपने husband या अपने father को ले आइए call पे, आप इतने सवाल क्यों पूछती हैं?
Of Bichari. We are on our second episode with Sachee Malhotra. She's the co-founder of That Sassy Thing, a new age sexual wellness company. I want to know, my first question that's just coming to my head is, what does sexual wellness mean?
Wow, that's like a hefty one, packed together. I think sexual wellness means a lot of different things. I think it's interconnected with like how you're feeling physically, how you're feeling mentally, about your body. So I think it's all interconnected. Like sexual health is interconnected with your intimate health, but also your mental health, which I feel like is not talked about as much. So if you think about like matters of the body, of like matters of your intimate health, your intimacy, even relationships, it's a very holistic term in that sense, and there's a lot to unpack with each I would say component there.
Agreed. No, completely. But when I'm thinking about it, like if I want a healthy sexual health, okay, let me just get to it.
Yeah.
I mean, does it include like, okay, is it for example, is it related to your if you have PCOS, etc., or is it so let's get there after, right? But are there like steps in terms of in your daily life or a regular life? Yeah, this is what it includes, this is what it entails to feel better mentally, physically, if you have this kind of a sexual routine. So let's call it sexual routine.
Cool. I think one thing I'd want to bring up is that if we talk about sex, sexual health, sexual routines, it could look different for different people, and that's like the whole point, right? Like there's no one size fits all solution for someone. But I think I want to take a few steps back and talk about like how important it is for us to understand our body, and I want to touch upon certain things which I would say are not talked about. For instance, pleasure is a very important part of sexual health as well, So statistically, about 10 crore Indians have sex on a daily basis, but 7 out of 10 women don't orgasm. That's the data.
Not so.
Yeah. But it is shocking, right? It is a very sad state of affairs, and I think that also comes from a lack of sex education, a lack of not knowing enough about our own bodies, and obviously there is patriarchy, there are other external factors that add to it as well. The cultural representations of sex, for example, right? Like what we see in pop culture, what we've been like seeing in porn, for example, as well. It's always been about seeing things from a male gaze standpoint, or really like women not being a part of the conversation.
Even your ads, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think rewind a few years back, like if you go a decade back, or even like I would say like till about 3-4 years, back before we'd launched even, look at the packaging for condom boxes as well, right?
Oh my god, it's so boring.
Yeah.
Forget boring, it's shady.
It's sleazy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's what we're trying to change at That Sassy Thing. We're trying to remove the shame, the sleaze, I would say the, male gaze also, and bring a more holistic, more inclusive, and more real representation of what sex should feel like, what intimacy should feel like, does look like, what relationships are like, what pleasure is even. So that's why I was talking about it being very holistic, and I wanted to touch upon this particular aspect which is not really talked about.
Yeah.
Which I think is changing now with, shows like Lust Stories, OTT coming into, the picture, and really mainstreaming a lot of the content and conversations that were missing, culturally earlier. But I still think we have a long way to go.
Oh, completely. I mean, I think actually going back to your point of how even the pleasure you feel in sex is related to your sexual health, right?
Yeah.
Could you elaborate on that for me a little? Because
Yeah, absolutely. I think I want to talk about like very real life scenarios, something that we feel like on a daily basis. For example, a lot of people would wear makeup to feel good, right? To feel confident even. We dress up a certain way or like wear certain clothes to feel really good about ourselves. It could be for ourselves or could be for someone else even, to each their own. The same way, we all deserve to feel really good about our bodies, right? And experience pleasure in that sense also, in the literal sense. It's a fundamental right after all. That's how we see it and that's how it is. So why is there so much, like, I would say, shame associated with it? Why is it still a taboo? It's just another way to feel really good about yourself, about your body. And it, in fact, obviously like impacts a lot of different things. It impacts your mood. It also impacts how confident you feel in your own body even. It affects your mental health also in that sense. It's a stress buster also.
Oh yes.
So hence, when I said like these things are interconnected, more often than not we don't really talk about it or we don't realize it. But yeah, I mean, for example, masturbation is something that relieves stress. It's known to like boost your happy hormones even. So I think it's a very natural thing, and it's just another way for you to feel really good about yourself.
Totally. No, I completely agree, and I think actually I'm curious how many females in the world or probably in India would know that fact about masturbation, or even like how many people do it.
Hardly. People do it, but they don't want to talk about it. That's what we're talking about here, right? Like everyone's doing it. It's just that people don't want to, admit it. And I think a lot of times it's not just about like, log kya kahenge, ya, what will the other person think, but what I think about myself. So a lot of shame, especially for women, is internalized, more than anything. And I think it comes again from conditioning. It's how we are conditioned to think, to believe about our own bodies, right? Like if you think about it at every level, like at home or in school, for example, you're slut shamed, right? Like if you're dressing a certain way, even in college or in school, I remember like having long nails was like ye gandi ladki hai kind of a connotation, or your skirt had to like be below the knees, things like that. So I think it's all those cultural nuances that kind of come together, and all that conditioning that really, I would say, forms the opinions that we have about our own selves, about our own bodies, and that's how it really comes out. Yeah.
No, completely. Nice, very interesting. So I actually want to take a step back and talk about why That Sassy Thing. I think you started in 2021.
Yes.
Before that you were studying or you were working? Oh no, you were working somewhere else.
Yeah.
Tell me that journey. Did you always think that you will start up? And oh my god, there's so much that I want to talk about being a female co-founder, talking about these products, touching these products, and being like, at that point when you were, showing the products to the crew here or even like the guests who came in, I was kind of, conscious, right?
Yeah, of course.
But you were so confident talking about it. So tell me, the journey of doing your first startup actually, and recently, and that too about sexual health. Where did that
I
come
just
from?
went all in literally, like
All in,
doing
literally.
the craziest shit you could
I
think
mean, we
about.
have it right around the table. You got this.
Yeah, absolutely. So the answer, like very simple answer to did I think I would start up? No, hell no. I never thought I would be doing this. Okay, would I think I would start up? No. Would I think I would be running a sex toy brand? Hell no. No way. Not even in my wildest dreams, I think. But I think it all happened very naturally. It was like a natural progression for me to be doing this, and I'll touch upon that a little bit, as I talk about my professional journey as well. So I actually happened to work on one of the largest condom brands in India back in 2012.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I realized that this space was things we were talking about earlier, right? Like it was very sleazy, it was really misogynistic. If you looked at, as we were talking about, like the branding for condoms as well, it felt very sleazy, and it felt like objectifying women. There's basically a box of like a man and a woman, and there's chocolate dripping on the woman, and that is the ultimate fantasy, and that's what people are buying into. So I realized that okay, this is problematic at that point, but obviously like I didn't think that okay, I want to launch a sexual wellness brand that's going to be literally the opposite of this, that's going to flip the script on this narrative. But that those insights started, I think, like developing at that point. Fast forward to a few years. I actually have a background in communications, branding, positioning, brand strategy and stuff. I actually did my master's in that, so I studied brand communication strategy in the US, and then again in 2016 I was working on a project on an American sexual wellness brand.
Oh, nice.
Again, had similar findings with respect to the space. I was trying to understand the different products that existed in the market. I was also, like, I would say, there at a very pivotal time where we had just started seeing the peak of the sex positive movement in the US, started seeing that trickling to India somehow a little bit. So I got to experience a lot of things culturally in terms of products as well, in terms of the consumer experience, how D2C brands are built, like, or how they're being built in the sexual wellness space. So I was pretty close to all of that at that point. And then I came back to India 2018. I started working on developing the branding and positioning as a senior brand strategist. I was working with a branding consultancy in Delhi itself, and I worked on different brands in the personal care space, in the healthcare space, e-commerce, and like I was writing all these brand purpose, values, and
Wow.
developing communication strategies for all these brands that you and I would be using day in and day out. While I thought, okay, these are like great ideas and really great philosophies, great thought processes, I wasn't really able to see that, I would say, like being executed as such. So I didn't really have control over the execution of it. And like when it comes to ideas, it's literally 90% execution, right? So I think that thought of like doing something on my own, because I had these insights about the consumer, like products, culture, brand, all of that, I thought maybe I could marry all of that and do something that I was really like interested in, which was to, like, I would say, I think one aspect of women empowerment, like at the back of my mind that I can think of. So I think all those things naturally came together, and while I was working, the idea of That Sassy Thing started brewing.
Yeah.
And that's when
When did it start brewing? What
it
year?
was 2019. And the groundwork had begun because like COVID had been just like at the peak at that point, and we were to launch like a couple of months earlier, but we had to delay the launch because shit was just really crazy during COVID. Supply chain was affected, logistics was a mess, all of that. But yeah, like I think also for us to get our first product right, it took like a year to do that. So we were actually the first brand in India to launch an all-natural lube.
Oh,
When
wow.
you looked at the market, it was mostly flavored lubricants, which are really bad for vaginal health
Correct.
because they can cause yeast infections. They have like added sugars, glycerine. So the first product that we launched is this little guy here, DTF.
Did
which
it always
means-
look like that in terms of packaging?
No, it's changed over time. It's definitely evolved.
Nice.
Yeah. So this is plant-based. It's all natural, and it's also unflavored because flavors
It's called
don't belong.
DTF. I'm so
Yes.
sorry. Did
There's
it
a
did it
story
actually
behind
come from DTF?
Yes, down to
Okay.
park. Yeah. So this was actually from a personal story where I was just using Tinder this one time, and this was, I think, like back in 2015 probably. I'm old now. So yeah. So I was using Tinder this one time, and I get this message from this dude saying DTF, and I was like, I didn't know what that meant at that point. So I googled it, and I was like, okay, we have to launch a lube that's called DTF because hello, it only makes sense, right? So so that's when we launched DTF, and it's a much better alternative to using flavored lubes. It's unflavored, it's dermatologically tested safe.
Awesome.
It's meant for the vagina, but for like people of all genders. So it's safe to use that way as well. But it took us some, like, I would say, like 40 different variants to actually test, and that's when we landed upon this product. So it took like a really long time. And I think the journey also included a lot of challenges because I think we touched upon this a little bit.
Yeah.
Being a female
Yeah.
co-founder, that's always, I would say, like that does play an important role in terms of how interactions happen in the business world as well.
Yeah.
How you're treated even, so I think one of those experiences was also about finding the right manufacturer, because it took me a long time to do that. It took me like a couple of months to finally get someone on board to manufacture the lubricants for us, understanding what our vision was, because I've had like people honestly like mansplaining me through the whole process, not understanding why we wanted to do like a better alternative as a lube. Why not do like the flavored shit that exists out there? So I heard things like, अच्छा मैम, बट जब तक आप रूम खोलोगे और स्ट्रॉबेरी नहीं हो जाएगा, पूरी स्मेल स्ट्रॉबेरी की नहीं होएगी, तब तक मज़ा कहाँ आएगा? And I was like, oh my god, I cannot. So or like, I mean, I've heard manufacturers be like, but like basically trying to explain things to me or mansplain things to me and going like, but आप अपने husband या अपने father को ले आइए call पे, आप इतने सवाल क्यों पूछती हैं, things like that. So I think that was definitely challenging, but I think my eyes were like very focused on the goal and what I wanted to do, so I found a way to do that. And got lucky to find a really good manufacturing partner. So
Do you want to name them?
I mean,
It's
yeah,
always
they're
good
based
to
out of,
name people for like, thank you for
yeah,
your
it's
work.
at the back of our packaging, so 100%.
Okay.
They're called Pukhraj, and they're based out of Punjab.
Awesome.
They've also worked with a lot of different brands in the intimate care and like women intimate wellness space as well, and developed a lot of intimate wellness products that are natural. So that's been a great journey.
So very interesting. I think that something that I would hold on to from your conversation is that you said that eye on the prize, right? Eye on the goal.
Yeah.
What is that goal for That Sassy Thing? What was it to start with, and has it changed as well?
Yeah, I think to begin with, it was about empowering women, but I think like as we've grown, as we've built the brand, our larger vision is to really, I would say, bridge the orgasm gap that exists, the orgasm inequality.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think that's like our BHAG, as you say, like the big hairy audacious goal that we have. We are in it for the long run because we do understand that change takes a lot of time, and this is something that will take time, but we are getting there. I think like we've seen a phenomenal response in terms of the products, in terms of the brand. We've been able to build a solid community as well. So I think it's as I said earlier, like it's a long way to go, because I think changing mindsets does take a lot of time. But yeah, we're in it to win it.
So the gap is that 7 out of 10 women
Yeah,
who have
yeah, yeah.
sex do not feel the orgasm.
Yes.
They fake it mostly.
Yeah, they fake it, or a lot of them have. Yes, they fake it, and a lot of them have never felt an orgasm. So
So they don't even know.
they don't even know what it feels like. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah. So I think, and one of those, I would say, like, one of those are the things that really, like, I think inspire me as well. It's that one message, like, that I get. For example, in my DMs, there was recently, like, there was a woman who wrote to me, and she said that, through your products, I actually experienced an orgasm which I've never experienced in 10 years of my marriage, which is just, it just blew my mind, right? And I keep getting these messages, and every time it blows my mind, that this is a real thing, right? Like, people are in long-term marriages, relationships,
And they don't even know what they're missing out on.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So we're here to change.
I mean, there are divorces that happen because...
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Absolutely. So
Good, yeah. Good on you. How many people know about that sassy thing until, or in terms of when you make content or you've done collaborations, can you talk a little about numbers since the last year, since the time you started?
I mean, if you're talking about reach, like, I think it's spread out across different platforms. So we are on Instagram. We have a community of about 22,000 people on Instagram right now. Then, like, we are on YouTube, on LinkedIn. Then we have our newsletter as well, which, goes out to all our customers, subscribers. So I think, like, I would say, I think, while there's, like, difficult to put an exact number in terms of how many people know about that sassy thing, because there are, there's, like, PR, like, word of mouth, all of that, which is hard to capture. But over 50,000, people across different platforms.
That's awesome. That is awesome. In fact, मेरा next question ये है कि D2C तो है ही tough, ठीक है, for especially new products. And you are with a product that is not easy to sell online, right? So a lot of D2C brands do rely on ads, performance marketing, maybe collaborations, maybe people talking about it, etc. I think every single one of those things will be tough for you.
I would say yes and no, because
explain.
100%. So I think, like, when it comes to performance marketing, for example, right, there are ways to do that. It took us a while to kind of figure that out, because we've also, I would say, like, learned a lot of things our own way. We're also bootstrapped so far. Now we are planning to raise funds as well. So everyone who's
interested in investing, please email ID.
Yes, we'll do that. But yeah, like, I think there are ways to do that. That's why communication plays a very pivotal role in terms of how you're talking about a product. And while, I think these are some things that we've talked about, one thing that we really try to do is, like, how can you include our products, like, for example, right, sexual wellness products, right, be it our massagers or our lubricant, think of it as a part of your self-care routine, right? So that's one way of also normalizing it and easing it into your larger lifestyle, for a lack of a better term. So I think it's about how do you get the communication right in terms of what is relatable to the audiences that you're reaching out to, but also, like, culturally appropriate and culturally sensitive and sensible as well. So I think we've spent that time to kind of figure that out, be it on D2C or, like, other platforms like Amazon, Nykaa, etc., that we are present on as well. So I think it does take time. It does take, it's not easy. It's like a whole journey, because we've been through that churn of, like, doing stuff, stuff not working out, like, there are also, like, times that the content is shadow banned as well, stuff like that. But I think
that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
I get that. So I think something that's really important, like, when you're looking at a brand, obviously would be the products, but the entire consumer experience, right? Like, how is the consumer experiencing the brand at each and every touch point? So right from when they're placing an order on the website, to the web, I mean specifically about the website experience. That's what really matters as well, because we are talking about communication at every touch point as well. Does the website feel approachable? Does it feel like something you can open with someone else around as well? Because what we've seen so far with like a lot of sex toy stores or sexual wellness brands that have existed for decades, and like I would say in our research we also came about a lot of customers talking about how they felt that the whole website experience for sexual wellness brands or sex toy brands specifically has felt very intimidating and has also felt shady in a way, right? Like you're going down dark alleys and doing something that's kind of wrong. So we try to flip that as well by introducing more colors, by making it like warmer, more friendly, more approachable, and not feel intimidating as well. Now that also has to do with the curation of products that we have as well. The idea is always to do really well designed, good looking, discreet and functional products. So that's something that we keep in mind, and that's an important pillar as well. Discretion also comes into mind at another touch point, which is when the customer is not only placing the order but also when they're receiving their package as well. So we ship 100% discreetly, which means that the package that the customer receives, that doesn't have the brand or product name mentioned on the shipping label, because you don't want other people to know what you're ordering, and it's your private business at the end of the day. And also keeping women's safety and comfort in mind, we make sure that that's something that we always adhere to. And I think it is challenging from a logistics standpoint as well, and that's something we've had to figure out also as we work with like different warehouses, as we work with third parties where we don't have control end to end over the entire I would say like experience, including like last mile delivery as well. But that's something that we've really looked into and taken into account and taken control over. So being in a category like sexual wellness, it is sensitive also, right? At the end of the day, you are talking to consumers who already have some amount of shame, some amount of guilt also when they're ordering the products as well, right? So you have to be like ultra mindful. You have to be very, very careful in that way also. Also, I want to touch upon the packaging as well. Atulya, can you bring the packaging once, please? Yeah.
Go, Atulya.
Thank you. So this is the packaging for our salty massager, which is
Why is it
born
called
by
salty?
later. Because it's discreet and it looks like a salt cellar, so no one can really make out what it is, right?
See, I asked the right question.
Yes, you did. There's a balloon here also, so very relevant. That happened by chance, but yeah. So even if you look at the packaging, right, like it's cute and it's also like not like in your face.
I love the packaging. In fact, I love the web design. It also says you just got sassy, which I also really love. I absolutely love it, man.
Yeah, so that's why like that's it's important to kind of I would say make it something that feels very natural, becomes a part of your lifestyle, doesn't really stand out, doesn't scream sex. Yeah, and it's something that you can literally keep on your nightstand and not feel like weird about it. Hence like this discreet little thing, which can be anything. It can be like a paperweight for all you know. So really thought about that one.
Wait, does it switch?
Yeah, it does. It's a long
you-
press and you turn it on. That's how it
super.
works. Yeah.
Oh wow, very cool. So I have covered a lot of your, like I get it. You come from a place which is communication first, which is great. I think that is such a big skill for where you are today and what you're doing. And to make it successful, communication is going to be a winner. But tell me personally, right? How has, as a woman leader, as a female who's super liberal with her choices, etc., how has that shaped what you're doing today, right? I'm sure all of us have some kind of personal background to really pick what we do for the rest of our lives, right? So tell me about you personally.
Yeah.
How has that shaped that sassy thing?
I want to start with something which will sum up everything I'm going to talk about after this. But I think in some way that sassy thing is my fuck you to the world.
Wow.
For a lack of a, better
very
statement.
good.
Yeah. So in my teenage years, I was bullied for being big, for having a lot of facial hair, body hair all over my body, and that was an experience, a couple of years that shaped me in every way possible. So I have PCOS. I have been living with PCOS for like over 15 years now.
Yeah.
And I was diagnosed with it when I was in 11th grade, which also meant like excessive hair growth, not just all over my body but like on my face as well.
Yeah.
Now I think like we are talking about a time where body hair was not normalized. Right now also it's not as normalized.
Absolutely
for
not.
sure.
I mean, you're sitting at a laser clinic.
Yeah, hell yes. But yeah, I think the idea of like having that choice was not there also, right? Like I never had the choice to not remove my body hair, which also meant going through a lot of like physical pain and like trauma. I actually like had traumatic experiences because I went through like super painful hair removal treatments, like not just laser but also like electrolysis, where it was literally like there was this one doctor person who would poke needles in my face and take each and every hair follicle out. Trigger warning, this is actually like, it was really 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 bad. Okay. Now that was because there was this term which is also relevant. I was like people would talk to me like, hi bechari, iske face pe to kitne baal hain. I looked a certain way. It was not obviously like as per what society deemed as beautiful and perfect. So that also meant that okay, relatives would come, or like even friends would make fun of me, for example. So I was given nicknames like Dadiyal and things like that in school, which was obviously it played havoc on my mental health. But the mental health की conversation भी नहीं थी, right?
Of course. Yeah.
तब ये भी conversation नहीं थी कि अच्छा अगर PCOS है, that doesn't affect how like it doesn't just affect your vaginal health, doesn't affect your ovaries only, but it also affects how you're feeling, your mental health. There was no conversation like that. It was only about अच्छा वेट लूज कर लो, ये कर लो, मतलब बाहर से जो चीज़ें ठीक हो जाएं, बॉडी हेयर हटा लो अपना, मतलब फेशियल हेयर रिमूव कर लो, बट व्हाट अबाउट व्हाट्स हैपनिंग इनसाइड, लाइक द स्टॉर्म दैट वाज लाइक brewing inside. There was no conversation around that. And of course the stigma that exists also in a way, right? So I think I had those incidents where I like had been through a lot and I became almost like a recluse and I didn't want to talk to anyone. I had major mood swings, in I would say school and college even. I also had like a lot of moments where I didn't feel like meeting friends because I felt like they'd look at me, they'd judge me for how I looked, specifically like my facial hair. So I remember like in 11th standard I would literally sit like this in the class, because not just boys but like even girls would make fun of me, which was really hurtful and something I didn't expect. I thought maybe like
Girls will understand.
each other,
Yeah.
but yeah, they were mean,
Yeah.
really mean.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of that aspect, when I was talking about like empowering women, it also included things like like you do you and like you be you. So I think it's taken me a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of inner work as well, to really own who I am and like be myself. I don't know how better to put it, but I think those experiences played a really pivotal role in shaping that sassy thing. So initially and like even now, like we're all about like empowering people of all bodies, all shapes, all sizes. So we show a lot of for example, like how this manifests into our communication. We'd have like a lot of illustrations of women who are big, small, all sizes, all shapes, with like, real, I would say, skin, stretch marks, body hair, because it all stemmed from a lot of personal experiences I had growing up where I didn't have that representation, like, be it in media or like have those conversations also. There was no safe space to have conversations around our bodies, how we really felt, and like the insecurities that we had. So I think all that really made me very underconfident as a person. It made me doubt myself to the next level, honestly, because actually तब ये भी होता था ना कि तुम्हारी जो self worth है वो how you look, like उससे associated होती थी. अभी भी I think to an extent ये चीज़ें होती हैं, but and then obviously like being a woman you're also told, or like you have these narratives about yourself, or you have these narratives about you not being able to do certain things because of maybe how you look, or things like that. So I think that is something that I really faced and struggled with growing up, that impacted my self-esteem a lot. It impacted my confidence levels a lot, but yeah, I think after a point I learned how to kind of step away from it. I think when I moved to the US and I lived there for 2 years, that really changed me like completely as a person. So I think the liberal bits also came out more at that point, because I also saw the world that exists outside of all this, right?
Agreed.
So it was a whole different world, and
But I thought it's a problem globally. How you look at females, right?
Right. I think, but more so in India, I would say that's
More
my
evident.
personal experience. Yeah. Secondly, I did not have the relatives and like the
Agree.
family, all of that dynamic going on there. It was a very different atmosphere as well. Plus, I went to a school which was basically a communications and advertising school. So it was obviously like more liberal in that sense, and like newer ideas, very like I would say new concepts, newer ways of being even. So I think I was like really exposed to a different world altogether, and I think that really brought a new perspective, like in terms of how I was like viewing the world. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
No, that's a lot. It's so funny what you were talking about. I was on my way to the shoot today in the morning. Basically, I just recently packed up my house, and everything is everywhere. Okay, so in the morning I was looking for some makeup. Okay, I don't do too much. I don't even know how to do it, but
It looks great.
but,
though, yeah.
but the whole story is, I'm like, Arey, where's makeup? Arey, I have to do something. Right? I have a shoot. I have to do something. And I was in the car, and I was like, do male hosts or male podcasters have to think about makeup? They don't even have to think. They just wear anything and they just appear, and then they just do the shoot, and then they and I'm like, why do I have to think about it? And then I was like, okay, now I'm chill. but that I'm just giving you an example of how we are forced to think about hair on your body, or makeup, or it's
कैसे बैठी हो? Like I don't think मैं ऐसे बैठी होती. Like literally, I think a few years back in a way.
And it affects you, and and I think that's such a good point of let's just say fuck you to the world with this brand. And but that, I mean, you obviously use the word bichari at some point, and so that's how the name came about, because I was like, यार females जो ambitious होती हैं, यार सही होती हैं, liberal होती हैं, open होती हैं, whatever they say, either they are deemed as bicharis because they're not really hiding anything, so they're like whatever, and they may be vulnerable, so they may cry, etc. Right? And or they're bitch, so because they're trying to hide something, and they're trying to be like, no, I will be aggressive, or I will be. I mean, honestly, history tells us that for the longest time we were females have tried to actually act like males so that they can climb the ladder, right? And now a lot of it is changing, but I just think that that's something that we want to change in terms of how you're termed when you're ambitious, audacious, etc. Right? But to that point, I want to understand. That so obviously you have a great mission. I love what you said about bridging that gap of inequality in orgasm, right? Like who puts it like that? That's amazing. So tell me, like, where do you envision that sassy thing to be in whatever years, 5 years, 10 years? What does that big dream look like, if I could ask?
I think I would say, like, in the simplest way, I feel like mainstreaming sexual wellness and sex care as self-care and as skincare even, right? Like when you're, let's say, like applying that night cream, you're also like using lube at the same time, and not thinking of, I would say, like let's say sex toys as something that could be threatening, but like something that's more of a companion in a way, something that is, I would say, a part of the bedroom equation in that sense as well. I think our larger goal is to like own the bedroom and own, I would say, different spaces like that let's say you occupy in the bedroom, or like a person occupies with a partner also, in that sense as well. So we have like a lot of exciting stuff coming up. We are launching a sex toy for men next month as well,
Nice.
because the goal has always been to be a brand for people of all genders. And I think we also have this one thinking that currently, when you look at consumer perception also, a lot of men sadly are threatened by sex toys also, because there is this notion that, okay, this might be something that would replace me, or am I not good enough as well?
Yeah, is it
It's that
unsatisfactory?
conditioning. Yeah, exactly. That thinking that kind of comes into play, which is changing for sure. It's changing slowly and unsteadily. But we also think that, okay, it'll be really interesting to introduce something that can enhance the experience for men as well, and elevate it and take it to the next level as well, and something that partners can use together also, as because you're talking about sexual routine as well, right? So we want this to be a part of like their intimacy routine, in that sense as well. So I think idea would be definitely to mainstream sex care as skincare. That's how I want to put it, versus just talking numbers, I would say.
Yeah.
And
How big is the market right now for sexual?
so the sexual wellness market is going to be 1 billion dollars by
Yeah.
2030.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Still quite a small, but
So this also, I would say, it's also untapped, right? And it's
Yeah.
also like very fragmented right now
Correct.
as well.
and only like the really big players like Durex have.
Yeah. I think one more thing is that there's not enough publicly available data as well, because there's not enough research gone into it as well. So the actual market is much larger than that.
Than what it looks
Because then what it looks like in terms of the secondary research that you find online as well.
Yeah, तुम्हें कुलाबा कॉस्बे में मिल रहा होता है.
Yeah.
But in different, they call it something else, like a massager.
Usually, it's not just that. Like, so I think it's a lot of like, again, like the whole buying experience in a way, the kind of products that exist. Usually, like, and mostly what is existing in the has existed in the market has been like stuff you or I wouldn't want to buy, stuff
Yeah.
that looks super intimidating, super phallus looking as well. So the idea is to break away from that notion completely and have like beautifully designed products, like, right, like something that looks really pleasing to the eye. Like, look at this.
Yeah,
Look at
they're
that
all
here
very,
and this-
very good looking
this little
products
baby
for
here. So the idea is to really like have aesthetically pleasing products as well.
Yeah.
Because like we buy smartwatches or we buy like smartphones even that look really good, right? Like we buy clothes that look really good. Then, as we were talking about something that gives us pleasure, why not invest in that also?
Yeah.
And something that's like a long-term investment that way.
So the interesting part is that your co-founder is your husband also.
Yes.
That must be so interesting because you're like, okay, we want to. It's skincare is equal to sex care, and then you're like, okay, we want to become.
I
a
made him
part
try 40 different lubes until we landed
Are you
at
a
the
part
final one.
consumer
testing-
research?
Yes.
So
It's
how,
really
how,
important.
how's that working out? No,
I don't think you want to know that. Yeah.
no, I don't want to get into the details there. But tell me, how did your partner become your partner, business partner?
Right. So I think since we launched That Sassy Thing, he was always working, with me, and in terms of like building the brand and also like obviously like been a very core part in all things with respect to the brand, business branding, communications, all of that. So it just felt like a natural, like progression in a way. But going a little back, like when I was talking about, I worked on a condom brand in 2012.
Yeah.
We were working together at that point.
Oh wow.
As well. So we were actually working at his, creative agency, and one of the clients was the condom brand I was talking about. So we had these experiences, like together in a way. We had these learnings together, apart from just the testing of the products.
Well done.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I think he is someone who is really like, super duper passionate about the space, about D2C. He's also like a very big D2C nerd, so he would be like ordering from all D2C brands, learning so much from them, in a way. Really good at, I would say, like branding, like, I would say, a lot of like the business aspects of things as well.
Yeah.
So I think it all happened very naturally. But coming to your point about it being interesting, yes, like there are pros and cons, because when you're working with your partner and also living with them, you are literally seeing each other 24/7.
Yeah.
And I think that can be challenging at times as well.
Yeah.
Though it's great, but then it's great because like you understand each other so well.
Correct.
And I think any startup secret weapon is like married co-founders. So because like you've also like been through so much together, and obviously like starting up is hard, and we've been bootstrapped so far, right? So that's like, it's been really challenging overall. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that when you raise funds it gets easier or anything, but it has been challenging. So I feel like in a marriage, right, you see each other through the highs and lows, and you're in it with each other throughout. I think that's like the really good part of it, because I feel like he understands me much more than I can understand myself, and that really helps when you have your partner as a co-founder as well. But yeah, I think like when it comes to the personal aspect of things, you don't really turn off, right? You're literally turned on all the time. Even when you're at home, when you're sleeping, and you're like getting these ideas as well. You're like, okay, we're gonna call our male toy this because of this, and like stuff like that.
I love that I've become a part of your bedroom conversation now.
Of course, that had to happen. Yeah, you're talking about sex toys. Come on.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
please continue.
So I think, and I mean, I enjoy that part, honestly. Like, that is more of a challenge for me, to not switch off and just be turned on. Like, I'm not like always turned on in the other way, but yeah, I'm just kidding. But yeah, but yeah, I think that's one. Secondly, like, you take everything home in a way, right? And sometimes it becomes a little difficult. I'm coming from my perspective. It becomes a little difficult to differentiate the personal and the professional sometimes.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I've learned over time, because I think earlier I wasn't very good at like differentiating the two. And I think as women also, I feel like at times we take everything on our like own self-worth, or self-confidence in a way.
Yeah.
So I think I've learned how not to do that, and like think about the brand, and like think about, let's say, even taking feedback as something which is good for the brand, and not about like, it's not about something that's about me. If it's like feedback that's negative feedback in a way, so taking that as constructive criticism, because when you're married to the person and when you're working with them, that can be a little hard to navigate at times as well. But yeah, as I said, like, I feel like that there's someone who's gonna be there always, and gonna be there by your side, in business and in bed, which is like great. And I introduce him like that as well, my partner in business and in bed, and embarrass the shit out of him. So yeah.
For how long have you guys been together?
We've been together for about 8 years now, which is a long time. We've been married for it's going to be 5 years this October.
What is the hardest part about being a female CEO, according to you?
Wow, okay, that's a hard one that I need to think about. But I think the first thing that comes to mind is imposter syndrome. I think I'm still a work in progress, and I still deal with it a lot of times as well. I think this constant thinking about like you not being good enough. I don't know who you're comparing yourself to, but I think maybe at times it's about this version of yourself who you wish you would be, and constantly having that comparison, or even like comparing yourself to someone else also. I think that's something that I still struggle with a lot of times when I also have a lot of moments of self doubt. I have to like hold myself and like tell myself to, be present in the moment, and also like I think talk to myself a lot of times and tell myself that no, I am good enough. I am doing good. Hell, I'm making people happy. I'm making people orgasm. So yeah, but I think as women, the imposter syndrome is something that is much more magnified and like much at a much like larger level because of the messages that we keep receiving, right? Like from others, with respect to the interactions that we have also, at work as well, be it with, for example, like for me, a lot of times it's about people not taking you seriously also, right? Like I've walked into meetings with manufacturers as well where they've asked things like कि आपके पापा कहाँ पे हैं, stuff like that. So I think even when you think, or even if you could be like really confident on the outside, you could be like faking it till you make it, but I think on the inside there is a different like narrative you're telling yourself as well. To be very like, I think, honest and very raw, I think that's something that I'm still working on and I think getting better at.
Thank you for sharing that. I completely feel you. I think I have felt that a lot of times, and I think there should be a go-to person you call, and that person has to remind you that, dude, you've done this until now, so you deserve it.
My therapist is that person for me.
For me, it's my sister.
Nice.
I mean, can't afford therapy. All the time I say this, I genuinely cannot. Okay. Last question. I'm curious again because D2C is, as I said, hard enough. How did you launch? And that will be very tactical because like people can actually use whatever you say. Okay, like was it an Instagram page that you launched? How did you acquire the first 100, first 1,000 customers for yourself for that sassy thing?
Yeah, I think a bunch of different things, right? Yeah, we started as an Instagram first brand. So 100% like creating a community on Instagram was really, really important. But we also started with like 0 followers on Instagram and, continuously build that organically, like 100% organically over a period of time. So that became a very important, point of communication and customer acquisition also, because it took us a while to
educate.
Yeah, I mean, we're very, very big on sex education. We've actually launched like online sex ed masterclasses, which are free as well, where we've collaborated with like the best sexuality educators in the country. Which we did a little later, like after, we launched like a year and a half into launch. But yeah, coming back, it was definitely Instagram. So definitely, communicating a lot on Instagram. That was the primary, I would say, channel of customer acquisition, but also like word of mouth was really big for us. So that is something that we did, really focus on, because when you think about the, I would say, nature of products as well,
it's
the
intimate.
category, yeah, it is intimate. The products that people buy, they want to talk to their friends about it as well, in a way, right? Like,
And girlfriends on their WhatsApp groups.
yeah, absolutely. So definitely like that's something we focused on, and we ensured that the customer experience was also such that it was Instagrammable. How could we still, like have stuff that's discreet, have like fun packaging that people can Instagram about as well.
Nice.
And like, as I said, Instagram and word of mouth being like the primary channels, and then later it grew to like, other things like emailers as well, emailer marketing, keeping that part of
That would come in retention though.
yeah, in retention, but also like making sure that we are communicating everything to our customers beyond products as well. So having like, I would say, a larger purpose to communicate also in terms of what's going on with respect to the brand, what are our values, who we are as a brand as well. But of course we've been communication and community first right from get-go. That's always been the ethos of the brand to begin with.
That is amazing.
And then it later obviously like translates into paid marketing, right? You have like Facebook, Instagram, for performance marketing, Google. So then it progressed to all of that as well. Yeah.
No, that actually makes a lot of sense.
And PR.
Use Instagram. What does an ideal world for a woman leader, a workspace for women leaders to thrive look like to you?
I think a space where a woman is confident enough to voice her opinion is, I would say, I think that would be like the first thing. Sadly, it's like it should be like a given in a way, but a space where she doesn't have to think twice before saying anything, to begin with, because I feel like I see so many people who struggle with that also in a way, right? And I think so many times, as I said, like women are not taken as seriously as well. I've shared my personal anecdotes as well with manufacturers, so on and so forth as well. So I think a space where you're not really treated for like your gender, but the work you're doing actually, right? Like not seeing gender as something that defines you in that sense.
Totally agree. I want you to do one thing, okay?
Okay.
Look into the camera and answer, that those females when you were in 11th grade who bullied you, who made fun of you while you expected them to be supporters because they would understand what PCOS does.
Understand shit.
Yes. I want you to look into the camera and look into that camera and tell females like them how they can be better and how it actually or how it affected your life, the way they bullied.
Oh my god, you're making me do something like
just answer them, that's all. Just give an answer to your friends from 11th grade.
I think try putting yourself into the shoes of someone else you're being mean to. It's not difficult to be kind, so check on yourself and like be kind to other people. Kindness goes a really long way, and I think kindness is sexy.
And sassy.
And sassy, yes.
So now that is it. We have come to the last part, which is my favorite part.
Yeah.
So you write down an opinion
by
the society for females that you would love to throw in the dustbin.
Okay. I talk about this.
You can use this as a paperweight.
Yeah, because it's discreet, right?
Yes.
Okay. An opinion society has for women which
You would love to throw in the dustbin.
Okay.
I think I remember this sentence, but I think it confuses people. But that's the whole
it's
point.
also like we've spoken for so long that I'm a little zonked by now.
No, that's the whole point of this sentence.
I think one would definitely be like that you're really loose or you're a slut if you have sex before marriage. I think that's one. But second, I think also this idea that like women can't have it all, or the idea of women having to really, I would say, like focus more on the home sort of a thing. It also comes from a personal space, right? Like a lot of times my work is not taken as seriously as my husband's is, right? Like if I'm busy and I can't make it to a family gathering, it's frowned upon, or it's really like talked about. So I wish that disappeared, and like again, I wish gender was not a thing in every conversation or every like cultural, I would say, in each cultural context or every gathering that way. So I think those would be the things I want to trash.
I think I will say +1 and +100.
Okay.
So now you just do whatever you want to do with this opinion, like just
Dramatically.
Yes.
Tear it apart.
Yes. And just throw it on all the men in this.
Oh yeah, it's not about eating men. That's what I'm not about
I'm joking. I'm joking. All genders. Throw it on
all of us bridging the orgasm gap together. That's what it is about.
Bridging one sheet of paper at a time. For you being amazing, an amazing guest, an amazing female leader boys for females. We have a gift
That's so sweet. I love
for
it.
you.
Thank you. I love that it's pink.
Yes, it's pink, and it has the sticker also.
Oh yay!
Because
that's sassy thing
because
is
you
so
got
charming.
this.
Yay! Yes, we all do.
Okay,
Thank you so
Thank you so much,
much. Thank
Sachee,
you.
for
This
being
was
a part
really
of
nice.
it.